This episode is brought to you by My Body Model. My Body Model believes every body is a good body and that you should be able to sketch out your self-sewn makes on templates that look like your body. Stay tuned for updates on My Body Model and a discount code for listeners.
Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of ZD Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, ZD and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Mallory Donahue.
And I'm ZD Donahue.
And today we are going to do a little throwback to, let's see what the date is here, to 2016. December of 2016
Wow.
is when we recorded a special song called The 12 Days of Sewing. And I remember when we reshared this, even some longtime listeners were like confused by some of the days.
They didn't understand the gifts we were giving them each day.
Yeah, they were like, wait, what? What's that one mean? So what this is it's a little parody on the 12 Days of Christmas, and we recorded a song, and that's coming to your podcast feed. I think I'm either going to tack it on at the end of this episode or publish it as a separate file.
Is it not on
It's on the
YouTube?
website too.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on the website.
Oh.
No. So
No?
not
Okay.
YouTube.
All right, that's what I'm asking. Okay.
Or it's not on YouTube yet. It could
Okay.
be. So it's sewhere.com/12-days-sewing is where it is now, where you can see it and you can download the MP3 and you can play it actually. And it's pretty cute. But we thought we'd just go through these 12 days of Christmas.
And define our ideas. for you.
Yes.
So if you're not a regular listener, you might not understand this.
That's right.
Or
So-
catch some of our more vague ideas.
You know, sometimes people, it's fun to learn by song, but sometimes it just doesn't get.
When I was in nursing school, my girlfriend and I made up a song about brain tumors, and that's how we passed the brain tumor test.
Hey, there you go.
That was a hard test, let me tell you.
So on the first day of Christmas,
No, on the first day of sewing.
is that what we say?
I don't know.
I think we say Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Here, anyway, whatever we say.
What are we
It
doing
doesn't-
on the first day of
the
our
first day-
event?
On the first day, it says thread with your presser foot up.
Which happens to be the number one rule in sewing as far as I'm concerned.
And our first ever
If
podcast
you
episode.
cannot do that, if you do not do that, you will have unsuccessful days.
You have to
moments,
thread with your
times.
presser foot up.
Now, I have had people say to me, I don't thread with my presser foot up, and it works all the time. Well, I beg to differ. It probably worked once in a while. It may have. You may be threading with your foot up and you don't realize it. But if you do not, Mallory, thread with that presser foot up,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Well, you probably most of the time won't get in your top tension disc. And
That's
so you will have
correct.
unregulated top tension.
Because when you raise that presser foot, it opens the top tension to allow the thread to lay in the path.
Yes, and so it lets the thread lay in the path. If you thread with the foot down, or if for some reason you're not in your tension disc for some other reason, just
Right.
because you threaded wrong, you get that bird's nesting on the bottom. You get the big tangle of thread, and then other problems form.
Right. It
multiply,
goes on and on
okay?
and on.
and so on.
And this
Okay.
also leads to, if the problem is on the bottom of your project,
Uh-huh.
then you probably have an issue on the top
That's
of
right.
your machine. If you have a problem on the top of your project, then the problem's probably below.
And then just to wrap this one up, if you are someone who says, oh, I don't have to thread with my presser foot up, because there are like 3 exceptions that people like
Right.
to bring up to this that come to my mind. They say, well, I don't have to thread with my presser foot up, but my machine has like a threading button.
Right.
And I'm like, well, it opens your
That's
tension
because it
discs,
opens your
okay?
tension disc.
So I think
Oftentimes it lifts the needle also.
yeah, I think it's maybe a version of a Janome or a
Right.
Juki.
The other
has
thing
this
people, right, and one of the other things people will say is, well, I can't thread my needle if the presser foot's up. Well, then put it down, but have the foot up while you thread your machine.
Yes.
And then you put the foot down to thread your needle.
To thread the eye of the needle.
Right.
Yeah. Once you get there.
Once you get
in
through the
fact-
other thread pathways, you should be home.
Yeah, in fact, sometimes automatic needle threaders or needle
Right.
threader helpers or something, they'll have you put the presser foot down first
Yes.
before you thread
Yes.
the eye of the needle.
Yes.
Okay, and then the third is on some sergers, people are like, well, I just put all my tension discs down to 0.
Yeah.
And to that I say, you should do that and you should raise your presser foot. But once again,
Because you should have a good habit.
yes, but once
Right.
again, you're opening up the tension discs, okay? So
And for those of you who say, well, I haven't been doing that and I'm getting a good stitch, maybe what is happening in a very serendipitous and good way for you
yeah,
is that you have laid it in the right pathway, and then when you go to lift your presser foot to put your fabric under, your thread is falling in the pathway, and that's not a guarantee.
okay. And also, this is not something we made up.
No.
Go to your owner's manual, and it will be step number 1,
Right.
raise your presser foot, like in the thread your machine
Right.
section. And like on this baby lock right here that I've got, it's the top of the line, but
Right.
even the mid levels, some
Right.
of the lower levels, it will like block your threading path
Well,
if you don't have the foot up.
and the other thing I've had people say is, well, my grandmother didn't tell me to do it that way, and she sewed all her life. Her tension discs were visible.
That's right.
They were on the outside of her machine, and she probably flossed
Yeah,
her thread into those tension
That's right.
discs. The newer machines, you cannot see that. And I will tell you, it's not a good idea to try and put the thread in while the tension discs are closed because you can actually weaken the thread.
yeah. Well, anyway, that's the first day. Okay, on the second day, and the lyrics of
So
this.
now we've got our machine threaded, right?
Now we got a machine. Well, we'll just back up here because on the second day, and the lyrics go, ZD said to Mal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so instead of my true love gave
ZD
to me.
Right,
Yeah.
because you're not my true love.
No.
Right.
On the second day, it says use the best thread. Okay.
Yes.
So we were just talking about this. We were kind of trying to come up with what to do for an episode, and we were thinking about frequently asked questions. And these two
Yeah.
they're at the top of our list. If you use crappy thread, you can get
Crappy thread, crappy results.
crappy result. It's just the truth. There are all different types of threads out there too.
Yes.
There's like a really wide variety, and different companies are trying to meet different price points.
Right.
And so there is crappy thread out there. And what you can do is you can try out a thread, but we literally would have people come in, say my machine's not working,
Right.
and we'd switch out the thread,
And that was it.
and it got a better stitch. I mean,
I've
that
had
was it.
people come to me and say, you sold me this machine. It doesn't sew the same at my house as it does here
Yeah.
in your shop. And I'll say, what thread are you using? Well, I'm using the thread that, Aunt Betsy left me when she died.
40
whatever,
years
yeah.
ago.
And I'm like, okay, let's try this. And we go over, and I will pick like white fabric and red thread to sew with. And they're like, oh, that's perfect. And I said, it convinces people.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
convinces people. It's
No,
good thread.
I'm like
Right.
picturing a lady's face in my mind.
Right.
She was really stubborn about this for a while,
Right.
and finally she got it. It's not that there's only one type
Right.
of right thread,
No.
because we use lots of different
Right.
types of thread, but they're all higher quality, and you probably are going to pay a little more for them. And also, so it's better for your machine because generally there are longer staple fibers. There's
Right.
less glue, less
There's
binding
less
agent.
which is binding agent and glue equal the same thing, everyone.
Man, I need to
Your
count how many times
all of
you
your
say that.
all of your I know, but all of your threads have a binding agent because the fibers, the longest fiber you're going to get is maybe 1.5 inches. So that long thread you have is a multitude
of fibers.
of fibers twisted together.
Yes. And then your project will last longer.
Exactly.
Okay.
Things
So-
will go smoother.
So the
Yep.
excuses that we hear on either side of the issue are, oh, I don't care if this project lasts. Okay, well, then you're still putting crappy thread through your machine,
Right.
and it's not a good idea.
Right.
Okay, and then the other thing is, well, I don't want to waste money, on this project that won't last. Well, you need to take care of your machine.
Well,
and it's part of putting stuff through it. That's
And my other thing about using not adequate
Right.
quality of anything, a tool or whatever is, I put my time into it. I can't get my time back.
Yeah. Maybe write this down. We need to do an episode on where we do cut corners.
Oh, yeah.
Let's do an episode on that. Okay. moving on.
or
Okay.
where it doesn't matter as much or
Yes,
something.
yes. Like where
Yeah.
where we do, if we are going to save on
right,
something. Yeah.
right.
Okay, third day, ZD said to Mal, pre-wash your fabric.
Yes.
Okay, except you don't do this all the time.
I'm starting to do it again because I have a coating system now. If you have noticed,
Yes.
I have a new coating system for our sushi rolling of our fabric. I'm getting really into this. So now I've started almost washing it as it comes in the house. It doesn't even make it past the the laundry room. I wash it.
Now, what do you ever finish off the edges first, though?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, but not on a knit.
right.
Right,
So
right.
you're sewing with like a lot of knits
Right, I've
lately.
been on a lot. But no, I will serge.
I'm
yeah.
the one bringing the new wovens into the,
I'll
into
do,
the house.
I will do a 3-thread narrow
Uh-huh.
across
then-
the ends. And that used to be sort of the way I knew whether I pre-washed or not. But then that gets cut off sometimes
Yeah,
because
and
you
then
use
you don't know.
because
Yeah.
we never buy the right amount of fabric. We always buy
More.
much more. So I have
Oh my
a new
gosh.
system of coating, and I actually even I don't know if Mallory knows this or not, but I'm even writing what if it was bought for a project,
Uh-huh.
or if Mallory said she wanted a yard, or if ZD said she needed a yard. I'm writing that on a tag because we will use each other's fabric
Yep.
up.
Yes.
Now, it's not the end of the world. You can go get more fabric. But if you had that set in your mind and you go up and you
I think we're usually pretty good about
Right.
asking that.
but well,
too.
now I'll show
Yeah.
you our new system.
Okay.
It says Z dash, and if I want some
An
for
amount.
something, and
Or
M
something.
dash, and yes.
All right. So pre-washing your fabric helps it. Fabric can shrink. This is why
Yes.
this can happen. Okay. So if you wash it as though you're going in the way you're going to care for it later, then you can, launder it that way. Then you can make the garment, and then hopefully it won't shrink.
And I think
more.
that is probably a frequently asked question is, how do I launder? How do I pre-wash my
Yeah.
fabric? It really should be the way you're going to do it after you make the garment.
Right.
People go, well, I use the hottest, and that will work too.
Yeah.
But it also might ruin your fabric.
And if you're not going to do that,
right?
don't
If
do
that's
it,
not the way you're
know?
going to do it, you don't necessarily have to do that.
Right.
But I just do it just like I do my laundry. Actually, on a shorter cycle usually, because I don't feel
Yeah,
like it's
'cause
that
it's not
dirty, right?
dirty, yes.
mhm.
Yeah, and you don't have to put a bunch of soap
No, no.
in with this, especially if it's a small
Right.
load, like
Right.
you bought 3 yards of fabric or
Right.
something. I would wash it by itself.
Or
with
at least light
light
colors,
colors,
right?
you
Yeah,
know?
you need to be careful. And there's certain colors that like to bleed, like red. I don't even know that I'd put like reds together.
Yeah. Well, you don't
but-
want your fabric to
right.
become something
I would
different.
tend,
Yeah.
and sometimes something like a red or something, I will use some
Synthropol.
Synthropol with it. You might want, or vinegar, whatever you think needs to set that.
Right. Okay. So let's take a quick break and come back for the next 3. We're excited to welcome back My Body Model as a sponsor. The My Body Model Croquis app makes custom fashion sketch templates with realistic body measurements. Sketch your fashion designs in a croquis template that looks like you, your clients, or your friends. Mom, tell all of our sewing friends about the updates to this awesome software.
Since My Body Model last sponsored us, they've updated their software to include a hand-on hip pose and a no bust option. This is great for sewists who don't have breast or wish to sketch a silhouette without breast. Thanks for being so inclusive, My Body Model.
Go to mybodymodel.com and use the code SOFESTIVE, that's SEWFESTIVE, all caps and all one word, to receive 15% off your entire order of download credits. This code expires on December 31st, 2019.
Thanks, My Body Model.
Sewing out loud. All right, so we're back. And on the 4th day, this is a wonderful tip, always notch your centers.
And this happens to be my personal ZD.
This is a tip. A lot of people
Habit.
compliment us on this. When they're
yeah.
like, "Oh, thank you for this tip,"
Right.
Or,
It's never done me wrong, I have to tell you. And
No.
it's such an easy thing to do.
Uh-huh.
And what we're talking about when we say this, always notch your centers, is so if I have something already on the fold, I don't have to fold it to find the
Mhm.
center. So I will take and I use a rotary cutter, everybody, almost
Right.
all the time. And I will just at that center of that edge of that fabric where it's folded, and on each end, not just one end, both ends where it's folded, which is maybe top and bottom, say, I will take just like 3 or 4 little threads off at an angle so that when I open it up, it looks like a little triangle.
Yep.
Right? So I do a little triangle and open up, and I have which looks like an inverted notch.
Okay, and then I just want to say, I've said this before, but I'll say it again. If you are worried that you're going to cut too big of a notch, like I cut too big of a notch the first couple times I did this when you were, first teaching me this long, long ago. Just get a couple pieces of fabric and fold them in half and practice, and you'll be surprised how little you have to take off.
It's very little. I mean, it is truly not more than 4 threads.
So if you are doing something that's on the fold, it's really easy to find that center and notch it. If you are making something, though, where it's not cut on the fold, but it's a symmetrical pattern piece, cut it.
Right.
And then you can fold it in half and notch it, or you can also practice just rolling your rotary cutter in just a tad to get a slit that isn't going to look like an inverted triangle. It's going to look like a little, just a little notch there, or you could use a pattern notcher, which is supposed to be only for paper, but I've used it on fabrics that, where that will tolerate it. That can be nice too because it controls the depth of the notch. But this is a mark that can't go away.
Right.
Okay. And it's how we mark the notches, like on anything, like on our arm size.
Right.
You have the 1 notch in the front and the 2 in the back. And so if we cut out a pattern like that, we've got 1 little slit in the front and 2 little slits in the back where those notches would be.
So what Mallory's saying is, maybe your pattern isn't symmetrical, but it might have a center mark on the pattern or something like that. The other thing I like is, for instance, a lot of patterns that are like bag patterns or purse patterns or what, they won't have any center marks.
Right.
And boy, you'd be surprised how those can come in handy. Like maybe you're going to monogram the flap, or maybe you're putting a trim on of some kind, or maybe you're going to put an extra piece of something there. But it just saves you for later.
Absolutely.
You don't have to worry about where it is or what you're doing or whatever. So I'll notch the side of a pillow even sometimes.
And like on, with a t-shirt, like a knit t-shirt, notching the top of that sleeve, because most of the time I make my sleeves symmetrical.
Notching the top of the sleeve is just
that's
wonderful.
That's all the marking I have to do, because I know that sleeve is going to be on my shoulder seam. That's where the center is going to go. And then it's just not, I don't need more notches than that on a knit.
Well, and sometimes, and I can't think of a good example right now, but sometimes you wind up in a situation where you're like, oh, I just want to be 2 inches, left of center.
Yeah.
And if you got that center, you can go for it.
Mm-hmm. And it's already there. You don't have to redo it or something like that. Okay.
So while you're cutting out, while you got the tool in your hand, while you're at that table, it's so easy just to do it.
Yes. And then the 5th day, this says, ZD says to Mal, but I feel like this is something I say all the time, is show the fabric who's boss. Okay? You don't want to, we do not advocate, like pulling your fabric through your sewing machine or, doing crazy stuff with it. But ZD is always saying, stop and readjust if you need to.
That's right.
Stop and readjust if you need to. And this is a big tip, I think, for active wear or just knit wear, where you can stretch your fabric a little bit, or, you can do a teeny bit of stretching to make disparate curves come together.
Yes.
Where you can, do things like that. Also, setting in a sleeve on a woven, I think that people don't realize that they do need to be adjusting several times as they are going through that. And that's what will save you. You'll look at it and you'll think, oh my gosh, I have way too much fabric here to ease in. But if you keep going a couple stitches at a time and you readjust to line up your stitch lines and line up those raw edges, you'll find, it's okay.
I really think that that's something that I don't know if I want to say the industry or media tends, they show you these pictures of somebody just zipping through a seam. And that's not always the best way to do it.
Well, it's not. Okay.
And it's not always even feasible.
It's not sexy to say to someone, hey, this project might take some time and effort.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That does not roll off the tongue like quick and easy 1 hour t-shirt.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah, I agree. I don't think
and the thing is I can do that a lot of times. I have enough
Uh-huh.
experience
Uh-huh.
with enough fabrics, enough kind of, I have sewn almost everything in the world that I could think that could possibly
Right.
be sewn. And sometimes, but I will still stop and adjust sometimes, especially if I'm on a curve.
We just might
I'm
be
applying a neckband, if I'm applying
right.
elastic, I much rather readjust than rip out.
Yes, and it also we're just faster at readjusting. It's
Right.
not that we don't have to readjust. And then this is going to get into the next episodes about the knee lift. So we'll have
Ooh.
that. But yeah, you're going to show the fabric who's boss. And that means not rushing through, not letting a curve
It
get away
doesn't
from
mean
you.
to be mean.
No.
It means to be a very diplomatic boss.
It means to be in control,
Right.
though. Yes, you're in charge.
Right.
Okay, you're setting the boundaries. Spray it with vodka is the sixth day.
Really?
Mom. Yeah. Spray it with vodka. This is we did an episode about disdain and
Uh-huh.
vodka.
Mhm.
Vodka is something you need to have on hand in your laundry room. So not the nice stuff.
Right.
Get like the big plastic bottle of like Aristocrat or whatever.
Actually, I just went to the doctor and she went to give me this medication and she said, Do you use alcohol? And I said, well, actually,
What
I
do
do.
you- I mean, I use alcohol.
I do use alcohol. I don't drink alcohol,
No.
but I use it.
Yeah.
I have it in a spray bottle. And
You know,
she's
it's-
like, what? And actually, the
Dee
medical
goes to the doctor a lot. She's got to make it entertaining.
actually, the medical I do.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, the medical student that was with her said, yeah, I think I've heard of this. Like, I have a sister that dances. I said, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
I said they probably spray the crotch of her tutu once a day when she's, performing.
Exactly.
But anyway,
So what vodka can do for you is kill.
wait,
Oh,
no-
sorry.
when you don't imbibe, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess when you imbibe too, it will kill bacteria.
It probably
That's what I was
does.
gonna say.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, so that's what it does.
Especially the rot gut we're talking about.
There you go. So you're going to be
Buy
killing-
vodka by the gallon and have a spray bottle.
Yes, and you're going to put some vodka in your spray bottle. You don't need to dilute it. In fact, you shouldn't dilute it.
I don't dilute it.
We want the high alcohol
Yeah.
content because we want it to evaporate,
Right.
right? So it will kill bacteria. So it's going to get rid of odors, right?
Right. It also evaporates quickly so that hopefully you don't get like that water stain or that water ring.
Vodka will not take out a stain.
No.
Okay,
In fact,
so-
it can set a stain.
Yeah. So vodka is good for, okay, the crotch of a tutu. You can't just throw the whole tutu in the laundry, right?
The way I got introduced to
Yeah.
vodka was I was doing theater
Mhm.
30 years ago or whatever. And you'd collect costumes after a show and you'd go around and who needs to be laundered, what needs, or people would put on the list, please launder my this.
Yeah.
Well, if you had usually on Saturdays or Sundays, you would have a matinee and an evening show.
Yes.
There's no time if the pits are smelling or the crotch, the crotch is mungy
Right.
or whatever, so you just spray it down with vodka. The quick evaporation kills the bacteria because it takes the fat out of the cell wall. Like I
Right,
can tell you
right.
the whole
It
thing.
disrupts
But
the cell-
right,
the
it
alcohol
absolutely it
disrupts the
bursts the
cell wall.
bacteria is
Yeah.
what it does. Okay,
Kills it.
so it kills it, so the bacteria can't, give, and the vodka evaporates quickly.
Yes.
Okay, which means it's dry
Uh,
for you,
yes.
and it's colorless and it's odorless. Now, people will say, "What about like isopropyl alcohol, which is the alcohol like
Uh-huh.
a doctor would swab your arm with before they gave you a shot
Right.
or something?" You can use that, but it does have an odor,
Yes.
and it will stay and it won't go away.
So soaps are things, they're a surfactant. They can help you remove like particles and things like that.
and soaps have fat in them, so they remove the bacteria. They don't always kill it.
That's right. And so that's why antibacterial stuff will have that alcohol
That's
smell,
right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
not all soaps are antibacterial, blah, 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 blah. But the reason I bring this up is, you may need to use a combination of both. If you have a
Right.
stain, okay, you're going to do, some stain removal somehow, or maybe you're just going to treat a stain with water, like with rinsing
and
it.
that is
something.
absolutely the best thing to do with the stain if you don't know what it is dab with water first and see what happens.
But my big thing is I have a dog who has that anal gland thing.
Oh my
where
God,
they
we got to
burst,
talk about this.
and they smell terrible.
Ugh.
And I
Oh
try
my God, we
best.
got to talk about this.
If someone is like, Mallory should be taking better care of her dog, I try so hard to do this. And I won't go into details, but Jackie's probably listening. And, anyway, maybe I can pay Jackie to come over.
I think there's probably other people with dogs that
Yes.
have this problem. My dogs don't, thank
But
goodness.
if this happens on my couch that I can't throw in the washing machine,
Right.
or a really terrible smell is vomit.
Yep.
And if you got a kid who's thrown up on your couch, you're going to get that with water and stuff, but those stomach just, fumes from
Right.
the stomach acid and the food and everything, I will do my best to remove all the vomit and everything, but then it gets sprayed down with vodka.
The
And I think it
vodka
helps the
truly
odor.
neutralizes.
Yeah.
We purchased a used camper shell one time,
Uh-huh.
and my husband's like, and I go, get the vodka. And he goes, you're telling me the vodka, because he knew about the vodka already with costumes, because I was having him buy it by the gallons. And I'm like, you spray that sucker down. He goes, well, there's some plywood. I said, spray the plywood down. And it worked.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
a friend who I earned their trust. They were Derek's friend, but they were renting a home and they had a mildewy screened-in porch.
Yes.
And I said the carpet smelled like mildew. Said soak it in vodka. And so here we go. We're getting this mildewy area
Right.
wet, but we're getting it wet with something that's going to evaporate quickly and kill odor-causing bacteria.
Right.
Okay, the one smell though I do want to address here is smoke will not always. I mean,
I don't. The only
Smoke-
thing I know that gets smoke out is like sun, if you're lucky.
smoke smell
Right.
will be caused by particles a lot
Right.
of the time. So
Well,
it's not caused by like a
It's-
bacteria.
It's not bacteria. Usually it's a residue of some
yes,
sort.
it's
Right.
so it's not like vodka's going to go like break the cell wall.
Yeah,
of-
it's like
of
even soap
nicotine
and wa-
or
even soap
tobacco
and
tar.
right. Even soap and water sometimes won't get a smoke cell out. It's been in too long. It's sort of incorporated itself into the fibers.
I mean,
But
honestly,
we have used the vodka on the boat, in the car, in the camper,
people ask if you
on
have
furniture.
To
I
have
did a
it-
couch one time at the
Yeah.
beach house.
People ask if you have to have it in a spray bottle. They're like, "Can I just pour it all over the place?" Or
Well, you
something?"
can do that.
It's just a better distribution
Well,
method.
I feel like
It's
you
more even, and you don't waste
right.
it.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's more economical to have
Yes,
it than the spray
yes,
bottle.
yes.
And the thing is, it's like with clothing, and if you're worried about getting a ring,
Uh-huh.
I mean that can't happen if you soak it.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it gets too wet and doesn't dry quickly enough.
Uh-huh.
So if those margins, are wet, and then it's the dry area in it, you can still get
Right.
But with the spray bottle, I really feel like you have a better
You
chance.
can avoid that sort
Now,
of.
I have with some like silk dresses and things in costuming actually done like half water, half vodka when I was laundering the
Laundering
whole
it.
thing, which
Mhm.
meant I immersed it,
Uh-huh.
sort of jiggled it
You
around.
were using vodka as like a laundry additive. Sort
as
of,
my
yeah.
as my detergent
As your-
because I
yeah.
was afraid to use it. I actually jiggled it around in there and hung it up and let it drip dry,
Uh-huh.
and it worked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is our last tip. We've got half a dozen done, and so our next episode will deal with the next.
It will be
6
the
tips.
second 6 days.
That's right.
of
The last days of
the-
sewing Christmas.
Of sewing Christmas.
Well, thank you all for listening. You can get to us on Instagram. We're at SoHere.com. ZD, take it away.
So long and so happy.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.